Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson both stepped up to the mic at the draft combine, and if you're listening closely, they may have just outlined most of the questions that we have in regards to the Chicago Bears offseason. The trade talk around DJ Moore, Tyson Bagent trade buzz, Ozzy Trapilo update, and what they plan on doing with the defensive line. This is a jam-packed episode, and I think this isn't just media talk. This is the front office playing chess. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Eric Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And we heard a lot from Ben Johnson in regards and Ryan Poles in regards to a lot of the questions that we have around this Bears team in the offseason. And so we're going to touch on each one of them. We got 8 takeaways from the media availability that Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson had. And this lays out some things about the roster and some things that could very well happen. So we're going to start off with the thing that everybody's been talking about is DJ Moore. And personally, from the quote that we got from Ryan Poles, it does sound like the Bears are open to trading DJ Moore, that they're willing to trade DJ Moore. Not necessarily that is one of the set targets and goals this offseason, which is something that I've talked about. But first, let's get into the quote from Ryan Poles, and then I'll get into my thoughts from him. The quote from Ryan Poles said this: "I got to have discussions and kind of see what the best combination of players we can bring in. But we want him here. We think highly of him. He's a great teammate. He's been productive, pretty consistent over the last couple of years that he's been here. So I have nothing but great things to say about him. But this is a time where we have to look at all the different scenarios and see what can allow us to put the best team we can put out there. There's relationships there. There's a lot there that makes it really, really difficult. He's a guy we want here, but we have to look at all the different scenarios." Now, many will remember, just a couple of weeks ago, maybe even just a week ago, when we talked about a lot of the rumors going on around DJ Moore potentially being traded and things like that. One of the things that I said then was that, hey, listen, you have to look at every scenario and you have to look at how you can improve your team. DJ Moore is a talent. And it's not about moving him because he sucks or anything like that. It's about if you move him, how does that create an opportunity for you to add something else that your team's sorely lacking? And that said, you also have to pair that with what's available in free agency that you could get in here to be a third wide receiver with Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, and how you project those guys in their growth. Ryan Poles here is basically saying that same thing in a much more professional speak. He's basically saying, hey, we love DJ Moore. DJ Moore's been productive. DJ Moore's been good. DJ Moore has been what we've asked him to do. But as somebody who's trying to improve this team, I have to look at every scenario possible. And Ryan, I love that Ryan Poles also admitted the fact of his personal attachment, saying that there are relationships there. There are those type of hooks there because it's something that we all know that's there about Ryan Poles. We know that Ryan Poles is somebody who falls in love with his guys. He tries to work with his guys. He doesn't like to see his guys go to other places if he can avoid it. But the reality of it is that it's a $28.5 million cap hit for DJ Moore on this roster. And a trade would free up about $20 million of they look for the Bears, who have, so much money that they're missing in cap space. You have to look at that. And so if you do get word that a Trey Hendrickson wants to come here, and I'd say that you can flip DJ Moore for Max Crosby, or if you do get word, hey, Max Crosby actually is requesting to be traded to the Chicago Bears, you may look at those things and you may say, hey, let's survey and look at the wide receivers that we can get, whether it's in the draft or whether it be a free agent that we can have that can come here and play a slot. Rome Odunze, despite some people weirdly enough being down on Rome now because of how he came back after injury, even though he was coming back from injury, but you have those, you have Luther Burden, you have these two guys, and when people are saying, well, DJ, we can't move DJ Moore, that's not true. It's not that you can't if you are so tied in to DJ Moore that you are willing to not upgrade certain other positions, then you're not seeing it. But as the same thing I'll say, for people who are like, we have to absolutely move or cut DJ Moore, you're missing the boat too. It all becomes about what is the best path forward to improve this team. And I love that Ryan Poles has that mindset and that mentality about where we are right now, because I think it does say a lot. So it's going to take maneuvering to make improvements for this Bears team. There's just no way around it. And DJ Moore is part of all of that. And we'll see. Like, if teams do want DJ Moore. Keep this in mind too. You're not just trading DJ Moore for nothing, right? While you may not trade him for Max Crosby outright, you're not trading for anything. You're probably getting a day 2 pick back for DJ Moore. And that paired with every other thing that we need on this team with linebackers and safeties, that also gets you another asset that you can add to this team as well as cap space to sign and make or even absorb and go after another player. So I'm just saying, hey, Ryan Poles seems like he has his head on a swivel in regards to moves around that. As far as other players as well, as far as DeAndre Swift and Cole Kmet, these are two other players that the rumor mill has been talking about the potential of them being cap casualties or traded or whatever else it comes down to that. Ryan Poles talked directly about those guys, and he said this: I feel pretty good about them being here. But again, there's a lot more calls coming in on interest of some of these guys. So we have to sequence that out and see how it impacts our team. I've talked about cost of replacement. So what does that look like? We know what we need to do, but any new unique opportunities that might pop up are usually going to pop up here. And then we'll get back and sort it all out and make decisions. But I feel pretty good about those guys. I mean, that seems, if you're taking it for what it's worth, much like the DJ Moore thing, it seems like, Ryan Poles, it liked those guys being here on this roster. He likes what those guys bring here. And it seems like those are two guys that are probably going to be back unless somebody calls with a deal that Ryan Poles feels like they cannot miss on. And I think that's a good place to be at with all of your roster. You want to be objective. Now, you don't want to just be selling the farm, but you also want to leave an open mind out to do. And I love that Ryan Poles also said a lot of these talks get done here at the draft combine. And that's something that sometimes as fans that we do overlook, that a lot of these things that we talk about getting done, or a lot of things that do get done, even if they don't happen right away, if they happen 3-4 weeks later, a month later, a lot of that groundwork starts happening. Those conversations start happening here. The draft combine isn't just about going and looking at draft prospects. It's about also having all this collection of NFL front office people all in the spot. You think deals aren't getting done then? You think the framework of potential moves aren't getting done then? Yeah, absolutely. You're also trying to figure out the maneuvering of where teams are with guys that they like in the draft to kind of figure out where you think those guys are going to fall at. This is the first step of really the offseason. Not just trades, not just the draft prospect, but all of these things combined. You're starting to get, or these other GMs are doing recon on getting these guys in here and filling out what other front offices are looking to do around the league. That's what this is really about, and that's why Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson are there. So, Ryan Poles is really just being honest. He's shooting it straight, about as straight as you can get here, as far as just being honest with, hey, we're listening to offers, and a lot of stuff starts getting done around this time. But I think with DeAndre Swift and Cole Kmet, that, those two guys, while DeAndre Swift is in a position that you can replace every year in the draft. Cole Kmet in the 12-man personnel specifically, I do think that, they're going to look to keep that, especially if you move a player like DJ Moore, which then may free up Colston Loveland to be used more even as a slot sometimes, which, keep that in mind, Colston Loveland can line up as a slot receiver. It's going to open up a lot more doors and avenues for potentially those guys. So if DJ Moore is moved, I don't think you're going to move DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, and DeAndre Swift. I think you're going to try to keep enough the same after that, because that's a large enough move in of itself, but opens up some opportunities for some other people. But sounds like DeAndre Swift and Cole Kmet may very well be back next season for the Chicago Bears. They're not going to be cap casualties. And I said that DeAndre Swift, maybe. I left the door open that maybe he could be a cap casualty. Cole Kmet, I don't think there's any way they cut Cole Kmet. If they're going to move Cole Kmet, they're going to trade him. Same thing with DJ Moore. I think if you're moving off of DJ Moore, you're moving off of him in a trade. You're not cutting him and just letting him walk to another team for free when you know that there's interest around those guys. And that's basically what Ryan Poles is saying, that there's interest around these guys, and we're basically trying to get everything that we can figure out done before we then decide what we're going to do next with this team. And that's basically where we are. So good word on Cole Kmet there. Now, one of the other biggest things that we know that the Chicago Bears do need is defensive linemen. And Ryan Poles was asked directly what he's looking for in a defensive lineman. He said this: motor, relentlessness, violence, explosiveness. And he said to improve our defensive speed overall, that's also something that they want to do. So motor, relentlessness, violence, and explosiveness. That sounds like a goddamn good-ass defensive lineman, right? So, you want that to be the identity of your defensive line regardless. That is a position group that we know that the Bears have to drastically address at some point in this offseason, whether it's in the draft whether it is in free agency, whether it's a combination between the two, which I think are likely. You may go edge with the veteran. You may go interior defensive line in the draft, or vice versa, depending on where you want to spend your money at. But Poles, he knows the type of guy that he wants to go out there and get. Now, can you go out there and get that guy? That's the question when it comes down to Ryan Poles. But this is the biggest need on the Chicago Bears right now, is improving that defensive line. I think the secondary is going to be fine if it can stay healthy. Linebackers, you know how I feel about that. We had an episode a couple of days ago, which I talked about. The linebacker position is one that I really want to see the Bears address in the draft as well. But the defensive line comes first and foremost for this team. If you improve this defensive line and get a more consistent pass rush, to get a more consistent run defensive game going as well, because keep in mind, as much as we've talked about and focused on the pass rush, the run defense is as big of an issue for the Chicago Bears team. So we have to address the running game as well. Our run defense has to be something that gets tightened up as well. We got to tighten up both those things. If we do, this team could legitimately be a real threat next year. And I'm about a real threat, I mean a threat to go to the Super Bowl. But you have to do that as long as with progress from Caleb Williams, undoubtedly. You have to have those two things going lock in step. You have to improve both those areas. And Ryan Poles has an opportunity to do that. He's going to have to get creative to get it done, but he's going to have an opportunity to do that. So we know what type of mindset and what type of player the Bears are looking for on that defensive line. And that is a player that really can change the direction of your defense. Motor, relentlessness, violence, explosiveness. Put that on a billboard. And now let's see, when we start making these defensive line signings, do they actually fit that mold that Ryan Poles just laid out here? Because if it does, that's a sign of a really good improvement for the defensive line, right? With that said, a lot of people are asking what the Bears are going to do. The Bears have picked in the top 10 in the NFL draft for the last 3 years. That's where they've picked at. And now after 11-16 record, they're no longer in the top 10. They are picking 25th overall in this draft. So Ryan Poles was asked about the mindset and mentality of what this team is going to do with the 25th overall pick. And does it change any now that you're not drafting in the top 10? Ryan Poles had this to say. You want to take a good football player, someone that meets the criteria for the franchise. Let's stick here for a second. Do we have a criteria for the franchise? And that goes to show how much things are changing around the Bears. Because if Ryan Poles said something about the criteria of the franchise a year or two ago, how people would have looked at that. Now, of course, you have people that would have looked at the word criteria based off the history of the Chicago Bears, which some pretty damn good history as far as defenders there and just players overall. But when you're talking about current with the Chicago Bears, we haven't had a standard. We haven't had a play style. We haven't had that. We established that last season. We established that we're starting to build a culture. So the Bears are trying to find somebody, of course, that you can take a good football player. And so it seems like the Bears aren't necessarily looking at position at first early on. They're looking at where the talent is and what's going to help the Chicago Bears, and we'll see, right? Now, Ryan Poles also did say this. You got to stick with the best player available. We'll continue to lean on that. So is it best overall player available, or is it best player available at a position of need? Those are two very different things. And it's going to be interesting to see how Ryan Poles addresses that this draft, because we aren't picking top 10, right? We are picking later in the draft. And not to say that the Bears haven't been in that position historically over our career or over our history before, but this is really the first time that Ryan Poles is really in a position, other than the first year he took over where he didn't have any first round picks, thanks to Ryan Pace. But, we have now somebody who, we're now at the spot as a team. We have a first round pick, but it's lower. So you gotta value that pick even more. Who you take with this pick has to be even more strenuous, and it could lead you more to taking the best player available, especially if a player drops that you didn't expect to drop and is there for you at number 25. That may be the route that you have to go. And so, much like we know with Ryan Poles, every option is open. That is what Ryan Poles has done basically since he got here in Chicago, is that he's left every avenue open and then moved how he felt is the best way to move within those avenues that are available to him. That has not changed yet for Ryan Poles. That has not changed for the Chicago Bears. That is the same way that the Bears operate right now. And so I think Ryan Poles has a really good mindset about it. I think he has a really good thought process about it. And, we'll see what comes of that. Next up, Ben Johnson was specifically talked about, or were asked about Caleb Williams. Him and Ryan Poles were asked about Caleb Williams. And Ryan Poles had this to say in regards to Caleb. Caleb knows he's got work to do. Ben has been very clear with a vision, and I know he's going to put in the time to get that. But that needs to get to the point. To that point. But if all that falls into place, I think we strategically have to understand how does that change our formula as we move forward and make decisions for the future. For the organization, that's a great thing to be on that path and feel like you have a long-term quarterback solution. So we'll talk about the Tyson Bagent thing here in a second. But this is Ryan Poles stating, for those that are still doubting it and still do not listen, the Bears have their quarterback of the future. They have their quarterback of the future. Of course, there are things that they want to see Caleb Williams progress and develop on. There's no doubt about that. Ben Johnson is going to be in charge of that development for Caleb Williams. But the Bears feel that they have their quarterback of the future, and that has freed them up to be a little bit more functional in what they need to do around that. Right now, they need to see Caleb Williams make that next step, and that's great to hear. But they got their guy, and that leads us into the next thing that was talked about when Ryan Poles was asked about Tyson Bagent and the interest around it. Now, we talked about that last week, but he said this. Obviously, the tough thing is that with Ben, what Ben thinks about Tyson, what I think about Tyson, what our locker room thinks about Tyson is a really tough decision for us. But for Tyson as well, he would have an opportunity to go and perform for a team and do some really good things. So, the Bears are listening. They're not necessarily shopping Tyson Bagent, but they are listening to offers on Tyson Bagent. And I think that that's a thing that's clear here, right? I think that you're hearing that you see that with this team. Like, they could have shopped Tyson Bagent at any point last season. But as quarterbacks come available and things like that, or spots become available, or teams have a young quarterback that may need a year or two sitting on the bench, a player like Tyson Bagent could be very enticing for teams like that. And it just comes down to what the Chicago Bears really expect to get back in that case, and we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing. But Tyson Bagent, I would not be surprised at all if he's moved. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's moved pretty early on in free agency as well, once things all open up. Don't be surprised if you hear Tyson Bagent's name called in a trade, and we're having a breaking news episode talking about that Tyson Bagent trade. Now, I'm not saying the Bears are going to get an amazing return back for Tyson Bagent or anything like that, but it's clear that teams are calling on Tyson, and the Bears are probably going to take the best offer that's there for Tyson Bagent as they play those teams against each other. One of the last things as well is that Ryan Poles made more clear timeline on Ozzy Trapilo's return, saying this. He'll miss most of the year, but we expect him to be back and be himself. So we know that Ozzy Trapilo was going to miss most. I've been telling you guys that for a long time. It's why I do think the Bears have to take a tackle or guard tackle combo in this in the draft somewhere in this one that could stand in and start if needed. Theo Benedict's definitely going to get the opportunity to start, but I'd like to see some competition brought in there for that. And I think that that's what you're seeing there. So Ozzy Trapilo, he's going to miss the majority of the year. It's an update we kind of all knew once you saw that injury that happened in the wild card, a ruptured patella tendon. That could be a year return date. Now, if he is not out that full year and comes back towards the end of the season with a month or something left, that could very well help the Chicago Bears get them the shot in the arm, and we'll see what happens there. The last piece of news before we get out of here today is that Ryan Poles did talk about the compensatory picks. Ian Cunningham actually talked about it as well. He's talked about he thought the Bears will get the compensatory picks, and the Bears do plan on appealing to the NFL for that. Now, we don't know if this appeal has already happened and the final word has already come down, but Ryan Poles did talk about that. And, the fact that the Bears aren't slated to get 2 third-round compensatory picks, it sucks. Because that would have been in this draft and in next year's draft, and that's where the Chicago Bears could look to make some moves there. And so, seeing that they're going to try to appeal to the NFL, he did say that they've had conversations with the NFL about the comp pick situation and said this, if that's the rule in place, it's very clear what should happen. So we'll see. Maybe the fight for the compensatory picks, much like the fight to keep the Bears in Illinois, isn't all the way over yet. But the last topic of the day before we get out of here, right? We talked about the left tackle position and the Chicago Bears maybe needing to address that in the draft, right? With Ryan Poles clearly saying that Ozzy Trapilo is going to miss the majority of the year. Well, now we got word that that from Adam Schefter yesterday that the 49ers are probably going to be releasing Trent Williams, who was an all-pro left tackle, right? Now, this thing is that they've been engaged with contract talks, but they've stalled out, and it could lead to Williams being cut and hitting the free agent market. If that does happen, the Chicago Bears should be the number one team calling for that. Because if you can get a guy like Trent Williams in here, now it's going to cost some money. You maybe want to address your defensive line first. But listen, if he does hit the official opening market, the Chicago Bears should be one of those teams that they're going to have to make moves to open up the space. Make no mistake about it. But they should be there knocking for it, because that is a player that can come in, fill in right away for you. You can keep up your thoughts and hopes of winning the NFC this year and the NFC North. He's had 12 Pro Bowl selections, right? So I tell you what, man, if you can add Trent Williams here, we get it. He's an older player in the NFL. you keep in mind Ozzy Trapilo still your left tackle of the future, so there's no doubt about that. But if you can get Trent Williams in here, even at his age of being 37 years old, I think that is almost the perfect stopgap option for the Chicago Bears to take a one-year flyer on Trent Williams, bring him in here, let him fit in with your already veteran offensive line as well with Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman. You got, of course, Darnell Wright growing as well. Like, I think that would be the perfect acquisition for Ryan Poles. Let's see if he can get it done. Let's see if he even hits the open market. But if he does hit the open market, the Bears should be one of the first teams knocking on his door to try to get him in here in Chicago right away, because that is something that just fits. It just fits. It's just that simple. But that's my time for today, guys. Combine week always gives you clues to what could be happening. It's not the full picture, but it's signs of the blueprint that Ryan Poles is going to be using. What he told us, defensive line matters. Left tackle is urgent. Caleb's future changes everything, and nothing is off the table as far as making moves. Now the question is, do you guys trust the plan? Drop your thoughts down below. Make sure you guys like the video. Hit that subscribe button as well. Make sure you guys are following us at Shy Bear Central on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.